Do you know that I did radio for the first 4 years of my life,
Yeah.
okay, before I could get into television, because we were talking back then in the early 1960s, you couldn't get on television without first being on radio. Then I believed, still today, after 60 plus years of this, the idea of radio and painting pictures with words was the unbelievable moment and method for anybody who wanted to get in the business.
I would
Painting
argue.
pictures with words.
I would argue we're still living it. Obviously, we've had the support of the visual of video. But I would argue when people talk about their favorite quotes from a movie,
Right.
they're not talking about the visual part.
Right.
They're talking about the words.
Yeah.
I think about baseball and how beautiful it is on radio, and boxing and horse racing. And you start to understand why in the 30s, 40s, 50s, those sports did so well in America. It is dramatically more interesting to watch a football game with watch and audio than it is to just listen.
It's very interesting when you talk about that, because I believe that there's more of a personal relationship to a sport from the radio broadcaster than the television broadcaster. The
Because
radio broadcaster is like a member of your family.
Yeah, the intimacy is incredible, and you're relying on it because it's the primary source, and it is, in that scenario, the only source of information. To your point, there are people who watch sports with the sound off or with music playing in the background. I can visually see that Patrick Mahomes threw an interception. 50 years earlier, I would have had to listen to Scully tell me
Right.
that someone hit a home run,
Right.
that Gil Hodges made an error.
Right.
I had to hear him say it. You know, Harry Carey had to tell me that the Cardinals at first were doing good or bad, and then later the Cubs were doing good or bad. Once television came along, a secondary sensory entered the equation, and it changed the intimacy of that relationship.